right now on Justice. Her top aide was on the hot seat. Now it's Hillary Clinton's turn. But first, I have some questions for Hillary before the Benghazi panel grills her this week. It's tonight's opening statement. And Justice fans may remember this.
I guarantee you, Jeanine, a month from now, we're not going to be talking about this. Mark my words.
Oh, you know what? I'll bet you lunch.
Oh, you got it.
So guess who won? Richard Goodstein bought me lunch this week, and boy, was I hungry.
If she had 61,000 emails over 4 years on one server and not one classified, then I'll eat this table.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. Yesterday, Huma Abedin, Hillary Clinton's longtime personal aide and senior State Department official, testified for 8 hours before the Benghazi Select Committee. Hillary herself is scheduled to testify this week, but apparently she's not looking forward to it.
I've already testified about Benghazi. I testified to the best of my ability before the Senate and the House. I don't know that I have very much to add. This is, after all, the 8th investigation. I will do my best to answer their questions, but I don't really know what their objective is right now.
Do your best to answer questions, Hillary? Really? In a moment, I'm going to ask if you know the answer to any of the questions that Hillary claims she's already answered, because I don't know the answers, and if I don't know the answers and you don't know the answers, then she hasn't answered the questions. And she keeps getting free passes.
The American people are sick and tired of hearing about your damn emails.
Thank you. Me too. Me too.
You know?
Hey, Bernie, not for nothing. If you were on that stage fighting to be commander-in-chief, why did you retreat at the height of the battle? And even the president is giving Hillary a pass about the private server.
I don't think it posed a national security problem. I think that it was a mistake that she's acknowledged. I can tell you that this is not a situation in which America's national security was endangered.
Made a mistake? If I gave a free pass to every defendant who made a mistake, I would have been thrown off the bench. And our national security not endangered? There you go again, Mr. President. Like not a smidgen of corruption in the IRS. And then Ferguson and Trayvon Martin and law enforcement. Mr. President, you prejudge situations before knowing the facts. Why did you even appoint Jim Comey if you weren't going to let him do his job at the FBI? You undercut the investigation. Were you signaling that you're not going to let the Justice Department bring charges even if the FBI puts together a case? Is this investigation nothing more than a charade? And Hillary even got a pass at the debate. No ISIS, no Iran deal, and even Benghazi there, she simply pivoted to Obama ousting Gaddafi from Libya when she's the one who wanted Gaddafi deposed. Hillary, that's why you refused to let the generals in the Pentagon take Gaddafi's son Saif's calls seeking peace in Libya before we bomb them. You're the one who rejected the peace talks for Libya. Why, Hillary? What was so important to you about Libya? Why was it so important that you be able to say that all was normalized when in reality al-Qaeda and training camps surrounded our consulate? Was it the business interests in Libya that you were communicating with Sidney Blumenthal about? And why were we even there when everyone else left? And why did you whisper to the parents of the dead in Libya that you would get the man who made the video, but were shrewd enough to send someone else out there to carry your water? And did you tell the Accountability Review Board investigators that you would appoint them if they agreed not to question you? You, the Secretary of State, the person in charge of the consulate. And why did Cheryl Mills, also, by the way, on that private server, tell Greg Hicks, the highest-ranking military man on the ground in Libya, not to talk to Congress? Now, you say that you've already testified to the best of your ability. Come on, Hillary. That's nonsense, and you and I both know it. You and I both know that previous formats were partisan, allowing each questioner only minutes, with virtual follow-up impossible as you filibustered. And I still don't know who created the video narrative. I don't know where you were that night, Hillary. Was the president in the Situation Room? Were you? Was Valerie Jarrett in the Situation Room? This is the first time there will be an in-depth interrogation by the most experienced prosecutor in Congress. And I know you want this to be old news, but it's new news. And had Congressman Trey Gowdy not insisted upon getting answers from you, which you desperately tried to not answer, desperately tried to delay, and desperately tried to conceal and then scrub, we would never have known about your little private email server with your two lieutenants, Abedin and Cheryl Mills. We would never have known about the missing emails that you say you never had. We would never have known about Sidney Blumenthal's emails on Benghazi, which you said were unsolicited, but then find out that even that's a lie. Should this investigation have been closed when there were outstanding subpoenas? After years, the committee is getting information no other committee, no previous committee has had, like the 4,000 pages of emails just delivered. And two federal judges blame you for the delay in the gobbledygook of your State Department. Had it not been for Trey Gowdy, we would never have known about the server, the lies, the emails, and the danger zone that you allowed to our national security. Now, I don't know the answer to any of those questions. And to all the critics out there, just let Trey Gowdy do his job so we know the answer to those questions for once and for all. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page or Twitter, hashtag Judge Jeanine. And more on Hillary in just a few minutes. But first, the Obama administration continues their failed, feckless foreign policy around the world. Disaster in Syria, false accusations against Israel, and a total 180 in Afghanistan. Joining me now is the former U.S. ambassador to the UN and Fox News contributor John Bolton. Good evening, Ambassador.
Good evening. Glad to be with you.
Thanks. A lot of criticism of the president's about-face in Afghanistan, saying he's now going to keep 10,000 troops there. And far be it from me to be complimentary, but maybe I should be. Isn't this a good thing?
Well, it's a lot better than I expected. I really thought the president would follow through on statements he's made now for almost 7 years that he was going to have all Americans out by the end of his term. Not very many staying on, but at least it gives the next president the option of doing something that the president, our president, has not done for the past several years, and that's act effectively not only now against Taliban and al-Qaeda, but against a rising ISIS presence in Afghanistan as well. It's still better to fight the terrorists in Afghanistan than to fight them here.
Given the topography and the tribal allegiances in Afghanistan and what history has taught us about that country, wouldn't we have to stay in Afghanistan forever to make sure that they don't continue to do what we think they're doing?
Well, I think as long as you have terrorist groups like al-Qaeda and quite possibly ISIS determined to use Afghanistan or the Islamic Caliphate that ISIS has set up as bases to conduct terrorist operations against us, against Western Europe, then I think that is the inevitable result. I think where our mistake in Afghanistan has been is to try and do nation building. I would scrub that activity entirely. I don't think it works. But I don't think we can allow our security to depend on the performance of Afghan government troops. We're there not to help them. We're there to defend ourselves.
But given the topography and given how many years, Ambassador, have we been there?
Well, we've been there since 2001, after the September 11 attacks.
14 years. We haven't stopped them yet?
But frankly, a lot of that has been spent wasting time trying to train the Afghan National Army, which is still performing very poorly, and engaging in activities that, honestly, we're not very good at as a country and that didn't change the situation. I think if we had focused more, put more pressure on Pakistan, on going after al-Qaeda in particular, we might be in different circumstances. That's what a new president would have to do.
But you know, that 2001 to 2014, we've got a Republican president, a Democratic president. We've got the military people, the Pentagon in there. I mean, why are we here 14 years later? What makes you think that, you know, a new president is going to be able to fix it?
Of course, it depends on who the new president is. But, you know, we've got troops in Europe 70 years after the end of World War II, and it's a good thing they're there.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about Syria. I want you to take a look at what President Obama said about Syria.
My hope is that as we continue to have these conversations, and as I suspect Russia starts realizing that they're not going to be able to bomb their way to a peaceful situation inside of Syria, that we'll be able to make progress on that front.
All right, not going to be able to bomb their way to a peaceful situation in Syria. Haven't we been doing the same thing? Haven't we been bombing in Syria? Why is it wrong for them to do it and not for us to do it? What is he saying? Does he know what he's saying?
Well, look, the president's still in a dream world on Syria and Iraq. He's been there since 2011 when the anti-Assad forces took to the street. The fact is, Russia has a very different objective from ours. They want to prop up the Assad regime. The president, Secretary of State Clinton, Secretary of State Kerry have been saying for years the Russians would help us ease Assad out of power. That's obviously not going to happen. And Putin's objective is only incidentally to go after ISIS to the extent that that helps prop up the Assad regime. So I think President Obama really has never had a clue what his objective was in Syria. He says one thing and does another. And I think he's always been reluctant to do what he says his objective is, which is get rid of Assad, because he knows Assad is a client of Iran, and his main objective for the last 6+ years has been to negotiate what we now have, this wretched Vienna Agreement on Iran's nuclear weapons program, and effectively opposing Assad could have compromised that objective.
Well, let's assume that Russia props up Assad. All right. What does Syria look like at that point?
Well, I think Syria is no longer the state that it used to be. I think functionally it's now partitioned between what could well be an Assad-controlled enclave along the coast down to Damascus and the Israeli border. The rest of it part of the Islamic State, along with western Iraq. Iraq also having ceased to exist as a state. And that, I think, is something that the president simply doesn't understand. The map of the Middle East is being changed. State structures all across are collapsing, as your open on Libya demonstrated. The president's not responding because he has pirouetted to Asia in his mind, which he thinks is more important.
Well, Putin he starts with Crimea and then goes to the Ukraine, and now he's in Syria. What happens after that? What's next? I mean, he's got, I imagine, the respect of most of the world now.
Well, certainly he's demonstrated resolve and determination, which are words foreign to President Obama's vocabulary and mindset. I think Putin believes that he still has the momentum in Ukraine. I think in the next 15 months before the president's term is over, there's every prospect that Putin will provoke another confrontation, this time possibly in a NATO country like Estonia, Latvia, or Lithuania. And look, in the Middle East, it's not just in Syria. He's concluded major arms deals with Egypt. He's created a functioning alliance with Iran. I think Putin's objective is nothing less than to have Russia replace the United States as the dominant external power in the Middle East. This has been a Russian objective for centuries. He's taking advantage of the president's weakness. And there's, at this point, I don't think anything that stands in Putin's way.
All right. Ambassador John Bolton, thanks so much for being with us this evening.
Glad to be here.
All right, and with me now, Fox News military analyst Colonel David Hunt. Okay, what harm can come from letting Putin take on this fight in Syria? We certainly aren't willing to take it on.
It solidifies, as the ambassador just said, Russia's position in the Middle East. They've been in Syria with Syria for 45 years. So it gives them a real, very, very strong base. Assad, at the end of this, is going to be a different country, Syria. The other issue is U.S., Russian can kill each other in the middle of this, and you could start a war. So
and that's what they were talking about with the deconfliction talks and all that. Is that
yes, the Air Force the air forces of both Russia, Syria, and a bunch of other countries have to allow 8 of their planes to fly in the same space. They have to deconflict it. It's very dangerous.
Okay, let's talk. I want to move now to the violence spike in Israel this week, the bloodshed that we're seeing. And as if anyone didn't already know that there's tension between Barack Obama and Benjamin Netanyahu, I mean, the president is now accusing Israel of using excessive force. What say you about that?
Once again, the president doesn't get it on this. The Israelis, one of the great countries in the world, are defending themselves. This, in my opinion, is the intifada, another intifada. We had it a few years ago with rocks, now it's knives. The problem is these are Arabs living in Israel. There's a wall around this, as you know. So this is internal issues. And the security apparatus of the Israeli government is reacting exactly how they must. You can't have people running around the streets stabbing your citizens without defending them.
All right, and I just want to clarify one thing. It's the administration that's accusing the Israelis of using excessive force. But, you know, you've been in more than one war yourself. You've been in many. Does the Israeli-Palestinian conflict ever get resolved?
Not in my lifetime. It can't. They're so far apart. Each side, one side uses terrorism, which the Palestinians and the terrorist nations, and the other side uses their ability to exist. There's no one has seen, in my lifetime, I do not see this being fixed, and it is the core issue of the war on terror. There's other obvious issues with Al-Qaeda and ISIS, but this one feeds them all.
All right, I want you to look at a map. I think we've got a picture of a map that we're going to put up here. If you look at Israel there, on the border of Israel, you have Iranian and Russian troops now. And now the Palestinians are acting up, and there's all this engagement and increased violence. What can we expect from Israel?
Defend themselves at all costs. What you're seeing with this uprising is the influence of Iran, by the way, in the middle of all this. You have Russia and Iran as partners, but Israel will violently defend themselves, as they should.
Okay.
And we will help them as we should.
Oh, well, hopefully. But when you talk about the Iron Dome, right? Okay, we've got Israel has the Iron Dome. That's what helped them. Was it last summer?
Yes.
With the missiles and the rockets that were coming over. Tehran now has $150 billion extra thanks to us and giving them back the money from the sanctions. Is it possible that Tehran and Iran, which is the main sponsor of terrorism, might be able to invest in a similar type of missile defense system for Palestine?
Yeah, why wouldn't they? I mean, absolutely. As could the Syrians, but the Russian technology, $150 billion, clearly would be used for help them in defense. The Iron Dome is exceptional. It's really a good piece of gear. But it's not by itself the only one in the world that would be invented. Yeah, they could use the money for defense.
Okay, so they both have an Iron Dome. Are they at a standstill at that point? I mean, is that...
No,
right?
no ground defense is impenetrable. It just hasn't been tested to the way a real Air Force could do it. So it's helpful, but not impenetrable.
Do you think that the Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Israelis are now saying to themselves, maybe we should hit first? We've got the Russians, we've got the Iranians, we've got, the Syrians. Everybody wants to kill us. Now they're getting a nuclear bomb. Is Israel thinking we got to go after them first?
Israel always thinks that way. To survive. The issue is the other side gets to hit back. And there are a lot of countries they have to fly over to do what they want to do. And they know that we are committed to their defense. So it's not simple as we should hit them first. But they always think that way. It's why they're a great country and a great military.
Yeah. All right. Colonel David Hunt, good to have you back here.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much. And it's the testimony that America's been waiting for. Next, I'm talking to a Hillary Clinton supporter about Hillary's appearance before the Benghazi committee this week. Then, is the Obama administration doing enough to help Israel after the latest round of violence there? My guest tonight says no, and you'll hear why. Plus, vote in tonight's Instapoll. What do you want Hillary to be asked on Thursday in the Benghazi hearing? Facebook or tweet me, #Judge Jeanine.